With the new update means it's also time for a new All Legends tier list. Making sure that you're well informed about the strongest and weakest ones is not only our job, but also our passion. Be it solo, duo, or trio, we've got you covered. Hyped up? Well, great. Let's move on to our question of the day before we jump right into the action. If you could change anything about a legend, what would it be and why would you like that to happen? As per usual, let me know in the comments below. For the S tier, we've picked Gibby for you. This legend is crazy when it comes to point control, surviving skirmishes, and supporting your teammates. But what exactly makes him such a demonic force? For one, it's his tactical ability. Doming under the right circumstances can be used as an offensive and defensive tool. For all of those familiar and in love with those zipline buildings, here's something you probably haven't seen before. If you place down your dome right under the roof, the people above will still be able to benefit from the very top of your tactical. With this in mind, you can enable your mates and grant them the opportunity for some easy KP. Next to his annoying tactical, he's also quite the late game menace when it comes down to the wire. In any open environment, he can be the difference between winning and losing. Combining the dome with his ultimate comes in clutch so many times you have no idea. You're being pushed? No biggie. Dome down, all out, and enjoy the show. Jokes aside, Gibby is a great legend that, unless heavily changed or nerfed, is going to be the bread and butter pick for anyone who's interested in climbing, especially in a more controlled environment in the form of a 2 or 3 stack. However, don't let yourself get fooled. Even standalone, he's quite a beefer, taking 15% less damage while also having a gun shield that blocks 50 damage to the upper body makes it quite difficult to challenge him in a fair and square one-on-one. Can you believe that at one time it blocked 75 damage and his dome granted him and his allies increased healing speed? No? Yeah, same, but it actually was the case in 2019. And this is the full list of S tier legends in the current patch cycle. With the S tier out of the way, we're now moving over to the A tier. Whereas S tier candidates make up the very core of every squad in terms of utility and control, the A tier picks can be described as the carries. And who would have thought we're going to see Wraith in this tier? The legend is infamous for her carry and playmaking potential. Being able to jump into the role of a supportive legend by making excellent use of her ultimate ability is only one way of finding impact with her. Another nice feature of hers is the fact that she's getting a constant feed of information when it comes down to people aiming at you. If that wasn't enough already, she's also the best possible vanguard you can ask for. Thanks to her tactical, she'll always be able to quickly retreat into a safe position while chipping away at the enemy's shield and HP bar. Next to those high octane plays, you're also the safety net for your teammates. Portaling downed allies into safety is your go-to defensive move and always a pleasure. Doing that, however, requires a little bit of finesse. You want to locate the most optimal spots at which you're not exposed to any danger. Optimally, you'll find a neat space for where you can head glitch and tap away at any overextending enemies trying to thirst for KP. And this is our entire tier list for the A tier. If you're interested in hitting the next level, there's no better place to look than ProGuides.com. We feature only the best coaches who've made it their goal to teach you everything needed to become that player you've always wanted to be. Aiming, decision making, tips and tricks on movement, and map knowledge, and anything else you can think of are waiting for you once you click that link in the description below. Next up comes the B tier, and here we have an OG legend just for you, Pathfinder. Similar to Wraith, he offers some utility in the form of his zipline and scouting the next upcoming circles. In his past glory, he was swinging around the map with a super low cooldown on his tactical, but nowadays, it depends on the distance he's traveled with his grappling hook. Regardless of his placement in the B tier though, he's still a nice one-trick legend that offers crazy play potential. Always being able to get the high ground is the advantage you're going to love when you lock in this legend. But let's be real, it's a double-edged sword. Swinging around even with increased momentum is still a way to expose yourself to a lot of danger. Enemies with crisp clean aim will fish you right out of the air or at least crack you. Therefore, repositioning with this tool needs to be done well and with a lot of thought behind it. Otherwise, you're ending up 6 feet under. To give you some more diversity for more populated tiers, we're going to showcase a second legend in the B tier, Revenant. With his tactical, you're able to stop enemies from abusing their tacticals and playing towards their strength. In this scenario, you have to be very mindful though. Your silence only stops enemies from activating their abilities. Once they're already in use, it's not doing anything apart from a very few specific cases. To make life easier for you, we've obviously had those cases conveniently put together into a list. Excluded are Gibby's Gun Shield, Lifeline's Combat Revive, and Pathy's Grappling Hook. Note that down and don't forget it. Next to those exquisite qualities of denying the enemy any fun, you can also abuse the enemy's headphones. Revenant as a legend has an interesting passive which is a real game changer in close quarter combat scenarios. Stalker gives him the ability to crouch walk at the same pace as his normal walking speed, while also allowing him to climb many times higher than any legend. Adding to that power, during skirmishes within buildings, his death totem comes in clutch. Effectively granting you the ability to suicide push his squad without any worries for your life is what makes it really powerful, at least if a lot of conditions are met. In open areas, it's obviously not that helpful as you'll just get gunned down. Also worthy of note, the totem isn't exclusive for use just to you and your allies. Sneaky enemies can abuse your push and also tap that totem. If they happen to have a caustic with them, well, you're going to be in a lot of trouble when you return to it. Being stuck in that toxic gas is never fun, and every true gamer remembers the pain of a caustic in Kings Canyon's old bunker. Truly not a good time. And this is our entire tier list for the B tier. Closing in on the later and weaker parts of this list, we're now at the C tier. Meet Wattson, the electricity-based defensive legend. If we were to fight a war of attrition, she might be exactly your choice, but in a fast-paced environment, she feels slightly out of place. Nonetheless, there are a few key points that can really turn the tides when you're familiar with them. Fences actually take no damage from the ring, which means if you're aware of the enemy squad being trapped in a building, you can slow down their advance by blocking doorways with those fences. Don't forget, sometimes fractions of a second can make the difference when it comes to the late game. She's also one of those legends that benefits from your creativity. Utilizing your allies' tacticals is one of your go-to moves. Let's imagine the following scenario. You're with an A-tier legend, a Wraith, and she's currently saving an ally that has been downed with her ultimate. Obviously, the enemy squad might try to abuse this and push you through that portal. Placing fences that go through that portal will hold their advance and turn them into cannon fodder. Another neat trick you need to know about is building a triangle with your fences. With this geometric form, the enemy, unless they can disable the fence, is forced to push through multiple layers of your defenses. As you can see, her field of expertise appears to be very limited and highly conditional, which just puts emphasis on her overall placement in this tier list. Next to Wattson in this tier comes Bangalore, a legend that is only truly shining when you are way better than your opposition. Across the seasons, you might have seen a few Bangalore mains that put you into their backpack while literally beaming the enemy. But what else does this legend really offer in terms of strategic gameplay? Yeah, you have a smoke, but often, at least half the time for me, I can just watch through the enemy Bangalore smokes and the same applies to my own. The level of inconsistency, especially if you factor in ramps and elevation, can make for a lot of frustration and pain. Also, nothing feels as bad as popping your smoke to hear a Bloodhound ult in the distance. That's when you know you've messed up. But don't be fooled, guys. She's still playable if you're in it for the fun. Just because a legend isn't placed high in the tier list doesn't mean that they're borderline unplayable. It's more about the fact that you're making it harder on yourself in terms of climbing. Other than that, lock her in and enjoy some double time. And this is our entire tier list for the C tier. Last but not least, we're moving over to the D tier. Here we have Mirage for you. Apart from being quite the annoying companion, this guy isn't really impacting fights or skirmishes too much. Here is something you should consider though. Rather than just using your tactical to send out a decoy, what about acting like the decoy yourself? Send the decoy away from you while you're running in a straight line into the other direction. And if you're truly a massive brain gamer, you can potentially abuse the enemy's tactical as a result. Quite cool is the fact that he can res mates while cloaking himself, but apart from being an annoying fellow, he just doesn't do enough. In Apex's current ecosystem and also in the past, he's just not relevant in his current form. So let's all just cross our fingers for a rework that turns him into at least a playable champion that isn't there just to look amazing. And sadly, in a team-based shooter, they don't really care too much for looks when you don't bring anything else to the table for the rest of your squad. Another victim of the game's pace is Rampart. She's just too slow in everything she does, and even the compensation buff of the past that allowed her to actually carry her minigun around rather than it being a stationary turret doesn't change that. Also, having a destroyable wall is nice and all, but how is it even on the same level as Gibby's dome? Not only that, but also think about the placement issue of those walls. Whereas the dome is literally all around you, the wall only protects you from a certain angle. And the question is, how long is it going to survive? Since Apex is a fast-paced game, every legend that's not up to that speed is bound to be suboptimal in many cases. Sometimes, once every blue moon, you still find them very useful, but that mostly comes down to the surprise effect. Whenever a legend isn't played, a lot of people tend to forget about their abilities or about special interactions. Use that to your advantage and harness the legend's power by unleashing every little bit of her power. Gun down doors with Sheila, amp up your bullets, and catch enemies off guard with your faster reload. And this is our entire D tier for our tier list. And that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe to never miss anything Apex ever again. For my closing word, I want to put emphasis on one thing. Don't forget that you can find success with any legend, but with stronger meta legends, it's going to be significantly easier to climb. Just make sure to be true to your own goals and follow through with them in the most optimal way. As an example, want to improve your aiming? Check out Aim Labs and warm up for 15 minutes per day before you jump into the game. With that said, take care and see you soon for more Apex content.